Welcome to the Living Word Podcast. I am your host, Genevieve, and these episodes serve as a reminder to how essential your fullest expression is on this planet during one of the most transformative times in our history. Together, we are going to explore truth through vulnerable conversations about life's deeper meaning, exploring holistic wellness, mindset, spirituality, entrepreneurship, love, and everything in between. Let's dive in, shall we? Welcome back to the Living Word Podcast. And today's conversation is going to have moments of explicit content. We are diving into an area of women's health that was very taboo to even myself until recently. I had several friends remove their breast implants, also known as an explant surgery. And I feel this conversation is so essential now more than ever. In episode 2 of The Living Word, we talked about our healing journeys and our journeys of transformation. And today I feel very grateful to expand on that with one of my sisters and my friends, Gemma. And maybe you're like me. Maybe you've never had implants, yet I am certain that all of us at one point wanted to change something about our body. I remember I had my period very young, and I was the only girl in my class that had big boobs, what felt big back then. And I remember being so ashamed of them and laying in bed every single night, praying that God would cut them off of me so that I would blend in. And when we were talking about this episode, that's what came back to me. We've all been on one side of the spectrum of wanting to have a change. And I believe that this episode is going to serve as a guiding light to women who are currently in a phase of decision, who are in a phase of embodying themselves. And that's why today is so special, because my beautiful friend, Gemma Astafanous, has shown up in such a brave and bold way recently after making your decision to have an explant surgery after years of experiencing what we now call breast implant illness. I had never even known that was something. And so Gemma is an embodiment coach who guides women on their journey of self-love and discovery. She helps them heal past wounds and suppressed emotions to live a happier, more authentic life. And Gemma, you believe that when a woman feels deeply and expresses her emotions fully, she unlocks the key to fiercely loving herself, experiencing life in a true, authentic way like never before. So I can't imagine someone more perfect to talk about this journey. And so thank you for being here. Thank you for being vulnerable. And I would love for us to just start with your story and going back to the beginning of when you got your implants, because what you shared with me over the weekend was that instantly when you had the implants put in, you started feeling polarity. You started feeling both sides of this new confidence while at the same time feeling this new sense of insecurity. So I would love for you to introduce yourself and go back to that moment and describe that journey to us a little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you so much for having me in that gorgeous intro. It just really touched me. The way that you speak just really opens my heart, and I'm just so honored to be here. Thank you. So, well, my journey started, I'd been overweight. From the age of about 15, I really noticed that I was bigger than other girls and was called names at school, especially by boys growing up. One of them was Big Bird, and I just felt so kind of seen in a way that I didn't want to be seen. That led to quite a lot of emotional eating. And over those years of my teenage years, I'd put on a lot of weight. By the time I was 17, I was 15.5 stone, which I think is about 95 kilos. And then I just decided one day I took these slimming tablets and I lost all of this weight very quickly, about 5.5 stone. Wow. It then, we're not going to necessarily go into that right now, but it spurred my journey with eating disorders and body dysmorphia that continued all through my 20s. However, at the time when I decided to have my breast implants, I was 21 years old. I'd lost this huge amount of weight, already struggling with how I feel about myself, my just not feeling okay in my skin. And I really thought losing all this weight was the answer. However, on losing it, I then had fuller breasts that had ended up being very empty and all I really wanted was my boobs to just look like how they look in my push-up bra. And I was just like, I just want them to be like this. And, when I take the bra off, there's kind of nothing there. There's quite a lot of skin, especially for a young girl as well. So to have, the things that we all go through as women, changing bodies, looser skin, for a 19-year-old, that's not usually something that you see that much unless there's been quite a lot of change in their body. So I became obsessed Googling. I don't even think it was Google back then, but AOL dial-up, AOL dial-up, searching for a surgeon or just looking at all these images of women that had changed their bodies. And I just became obsessed. And my parents didn't want me to do it. I had some money. However, they also gave me, I think, an additional £1,000 at the time, begrudgingly, not wanting me to do it. However, I think this is what loving parents also do. They just want to do the thing that the child, which even though I was, sort of 19, 20 at the time of saying this is what I really wanted, they just want to do the thing to make their child happy. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I then decided to have these breast implants. And at the time, there's always that moment where it's like, I finally got the thing that I wanted. This is going to make me happy. This is going to be that changing point at how I want to feel about myself. And then it just opened up this, this new kind of path of, in a way, liking my breast, liking the attention. I was kind of strutting around in these taped up boobs, and I felt amazing. And, the kind of the contrast of that at the same time, those years then became the most insecure years of my life too, because there was this, or now I kind of can look back and just think these foreign objects in my body that really kept me from feeling connected to myself. Mm. And I think the other big part, and I'm not sure, I'll just continue, is that because my breasts and being such a young woman had been filled with the implants, I didn't have that, kind of look of, oh, she's clearly had her breast implants done or breast done. So I felt that I was kind of operating or being seen in the world as a woman with natural breasts. However, I had implants, so it created this whole other fracture part of my psyche as well of oh, I don't really want to be seen fully, or if people do know, they judge me, or this is what I was thinking. And I, in some ways, I really do believe that to be true as well, because I think that there is still a lot of taboo and judgment about women that decide to go down the route of having cosmetic surgery. So when you don't think someone has, but then, people kind of talk in the background, and it's oh, I had that. It's oh, yours look real though. And it's yeah, but is that the thing, or is it the actual surgery? Is it because they don't, so it brought up a lot of things in my mind of how I was seen, how I felt about myself, how other people looked at me. And given that it was meant to be a solution to this acceptance and self-love, it kind of created its whole, this whole new thing that I really didn't expect, that I've kind of, been navigating for the last 20 years of having the implants.
I think it's so amazing as a reflection to even think about 21 years old. Mm. I'm putting myself in the position of how did I feel at 21? And at 21, I was so insecure and I had my own journey. And so I'm putting myself in your shoes of what you were experiencing. And I can only imagine, that duality of this natural curvaceous woman or this woman that went under cosmetic surgery and what you were perceiving people thinking about you. And I think that we all go through phases of that. It's how am I being seen? And we both know, working with so many women, that a lot of the times what we expect other people to think about us is what we're really thinking about ourselves. So for you to be able to have the reflection of back then, of that going on, it almost opens my heart even more to just feel the pain of so many women just wanting to be seen as captivating, wanting to be seen at all. And it's interesting that now we live in the most comparison era, I believe, that we've seen so far with social media and this toxic lens of what women are supposed to look like. And so if we even take what you experienced at 21 before all of this social media stigma, and now we expedite this big amount of pressure that women feel, what we're saying right now is that it's always been there. It's just been in different ways. And so if you were to go through, like, from 21, getting the implants, you've had them for 20 years, I believe.
Yeah.
Was there any time in that journey where you felt totally embodied with them, where you just felt like good and yourself? Because the truth is, when I met you, I did not know. They looked so natural that I never even thought about it. It never even crossed my mind. So did you go through phases where you didn't think about it, where it was just who you were? How did that affect your self-image?
I think that it's all, so when I actually had them done, I was in a long-term relationship at that point. He really didn't want me to have them done. So that already created this, he loved me and he accepted it and he knew that I wanted to, that's what I had this voice of my boyfriend at the time that was really, like, you're amazing as you are. And I think, for so many women, it really doesn't matter what anyone says about you or to you or the way that they see you until you can see yourself. And so that was the starting point, that then I felt, oh, I've done something to myself that he doesn't like. So that, I feel, that impacted our sex life. It impacted, and it's hard to say if it's it or if, again, it's me, like, I'm now feeling these things, I'm thinking these things. And I'm also, getting used to this new change in my body. So after I split up with him, then I went through more of this, like, I felt like more of this liberated woman. I was at university and I did feel really confident in myself, and I was more promiscuous and enjoying the joys of different men and at uni and going out. And I felt good in myself. It didn't really come up. It didn't start to kind of grow its roots, so to speak, until I think just the longer that then I had the implants, that's when I start to then hear people talking. So I'd be, in conversation with somebody and they're like, oh yeah, look at that girl, like, she's had her boobs done, or, oh, that doesn't look good, or why are people doing these things? Or I'd be with talking to guys and they would say things about women that have had cosmetic surgery, not believing I had. So It's like, then it starts to, and even if I've always been quite honest. I've never lied. I've never said, like, anyone's asked me and I haven't said that I've had them. And sometimes in those conversations, I would say, oh, I've had them, but not all the time. Just sometimes it just felt like there was this thing in the space that I was that thing that I hear other people talking about in a way that is very judgmental, thinking that they know about them, either that they have this real view of themselves, or they're so insecure they need to do these things. And I guess in a way, like, obviously the only reason they're touching me is because those things did feel true to me, and I just didn't like to hear them being spoken about other people. And it's like, oh, well, you're not in that category though. And then when I would say I'd had breast implants, like what I said before, it's like, oh, well, yours look really natural. So it's like, oh, so because mine look natural, does that now not mean that all the things that, you're kind of judging or looking at other women that have had things, enhancements done to them, that because theirs don't look natural, that's the thing? Or is it because they've had them in the first place? And it just started to create this whole thing about myself that I just didn't feel fully comfortable in my skin. And I think just like as years went on, it was just like, they served me. I mean, as much, I feel like I'm kind of like amplifying the side of, like, really, the parts that really didn't feel good. I also did feel really good in myself too. I've looked back and I've thought, would I have done it again? Would that version of me done it again, even if she had me coming from the future? I mean, she would probably still do whatever she wanted to do, because that's just the kind of woman that I was. I don't think I would have even listened to myself, because I was so fixated on how I didn't like myself.
Absolutely.
So, I've really thought about that, and like, what if there was something I would do differently? I mean, the thing I haven't mentioned, we haven't spoke about as yet, is that as well as having the explants, I've had a breast uplift as well. So because all of that, the skin and the breast tissue that was already there at 20 needed some reshaping. I'm very happy with the result. I'm very happy with the decision I made in the end, because I'd gone through this point of, like, I just want to be just myself, and it was a big decision to have an uplift. It was still a big decision because I felt maybe, especially on this journey of really being in my, just the fullness of me and just accepting myself. And I do feel I do radically accept myself and love myself. And I felt like, is this journey, and, you know, we make that in a decision, is this a journey of loving myself, of having those kind of, you know, those war wounds of my life and seeing my breasts and their, you know, the emptiness that is there and finding that love with them? Or is it having an uplift and finding that love with these new scars, where I have scars around my areola and right through my breast and underneath? And at the point of when I had my implants, the reason I didn't do an uplift is because at that point, I thought having scars on my breast was so much worse than having implants. So it's been you know, there's just so much there. And I feel like, no, I chose from a deep place. I'm actually very happy with my decision. Partly it is still from a place of wanting to look good and feel good in my body. And that's okay too.
It's totally okay.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in whatever truly makes someone feel good, I'm going to always tell them to do that. I don't think it's fair for us to have judgments over other people's decisions because we don't know where they're at emotionally, spiritually. And, you know, back when we were talking 20 years ago, implants were a very big thing. We saw them on movie stars. I mean, Pamela Anderson, for example, on Baywatch, she was seen as this like the ultimate woman. We saw representations of that over and over again. Yeah. And we see that in other ways too. And I believe like I've had the opportunity to be really in this like observation phase at dermatology conferences, at cosmetic aesthetic conferences over the last 3 years. And what I know is that the difference I see is that people don't know now when people have had work done because it's become so natural in the ways that they do it. And I think that it's a beautiful advancement. And I also believe, like you said, what place are we making decisions from? I mean, for myself, I have had filler put in my upper lip. I've had Botox done on my face. And, you know, we could talk about all the reasons why it's not a good idea. And then I can just say that I've never even thought twice about it. I really love it. I don't go above and beyond. I don't ever like crave more. I think that's also part of the decision. Yeah. Like, where is this decision coming from and why? And to each their own. And I think the fact that you've been able to really navigate through this journey of, yeah, I felt great. My breasts were beautiful. I had so much fun. And then this other version of you, as you're evolving as a woman, was like, wait, I don't know if this allows me to feel fully connected to myself, to my divine feminine. And that journey of itself, in my opinion, is the journey. Yeah. It's really navigating the changes and choices because this life is about making choices based on where we're at. And I'm just so grateful we get to share that with people because this is not a message of don't do these things. It's a message of let's look at both sides of what this outcome would look like. And even if you decide to do something that later down the road you decide is no longer in alignment, there's always ways to change it. Yeah. And I think one of the interesting parts about your journey that I was not aware of until you and 2 other of my friends told me about their explant was breast implant illness. So that's something I've never heard of before. And as a collective, we're slowly learning about the side effects of all of these different cosmetic surgery procedures that there wasn't enough research back then. Yeah. And I didn't even know this was a thing. Yet when you were talking about you were feeling pain, discomfort, depression, fatigue, low energy, brain fog, and you later learned that these were symptoms of breast implant illness. I mean, how did you even figure that out? Yeah, how did I figure that out? Because so many women talk about these and we blame it on hormones or our eating patterns. And it's like, wait a minute, if we were to open that curtain of Oz a little bit more, and we look at each of our own unique, what I call our blueprint, there are other factors that contribute. Because my other friend too, she had I was talking to her this weekend, she had the same things and her doctor had gone through every other possibility except this. Yeah. And So I'm so curious, was that the same for you?
Well, I think that even though, like, thinking of these symptoms, I feel, I mean, on actually seeing the state of my implants and what I learned, and I shared this with you, after, so I'm literally 4 weeks post surgery right
Wow.
now.
Oh,
Well, 4 weeks
wow.
and 2 days. I know, it just seems like such a lifetime ago. So at the time, yes, I had pain. However, and I knew that they were old. They were, really implants that, they're not given a lifetime span, and they do recommend changing them every 10 to 15 years. However, the ones now, I think they say a lifetime. It's just that things move and things change, right? However, the condition that they were in, when I actually had scans done in the UK to actually look at the pain that I was having, they did not say that I had any leakage of the implants. They said that there hadn't been a rupture. And then my surgeon, I chose him because he is a specialist. One is he actually speaks and raises awareness of breast implant illness. He is a cosmetic surgeon and he only takes implants out.
Wow.
And he doesn't put them in. His name's Dr. Buenrostro. He's in Guadalajara in Mexico, and he takes out the whole implant in the capsule because your body creates a scar around that implant to protect itself, and then kind of feeds that wall, so it's like you've got the implant and then your body creates this scar. So with all of that, anyway, I was just thinking, where am I going with that? So you were talking about, breast implant illness. It was in the journey of me actually looking for a surgeon, speaking to my friends, because obviously once you start sort of burrowing into, let me look up explants, then you start to learn why women want to have explants, Why would I not decide to just have new implants put in? And it was there I kind of went down the rabbit trail of connecting with women and Facebook groups and just seeing that there's like so many things out there that women are reporting a lot of things, and their implants are never even thought of, which I just think seems quite bewildering now, because if we've got something in our body, I mean, there's the potentiality of things leaking and what that then means for the body having to fight that. I mean, you're the expert in inflammation, and that's what really made me think, actually, my body has created this wall to protect itself, and so much energy is being fed into keeping these, toxic jellyfish that I've now named them. My friend said to me, "How are those jellyfish?" And I was like, "Oh my God, that is exactly what they are." I've started to use the jellyfish emoji. And all of that energy, that bracing of my inner body. So that's why I'm starting to think, okay, I could see, I mean, I also would like to believe that there is now, having them out, one, just like to see them feel kind of like free from having that in my body. But I'm really wanting to see, like what continues to happen, like with my energy, with my clarity, and just noticing whether or not is because the capsule was there. I don't know, I haven't had the test yet to see if there was actual silicone leakage in my body. But just even in a deep knowing, I think a woman just knows her body.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel deep within me that I know my body was putting a huge amount of energy and strain into keeping itself safe and holding that wall of those implants that are literally, like there's gooey silicone all over them. So I believe that these things will start to really see shifts in my life, because as soon as I even just look at them and I know that they're not in my body, I just feel this new sense of, I'm in this new era of life, and I just feel so much more alive and free and just open, in my heart.
I see it in you.
Yeah.
I see it even looking at your eyes right now. Like there's a new zest of V in there. And it wasn't that you didn't have it before. You've always been this radiant woman to me. And now I see this new energy in you. And even the other day when I saw you, I had forgotten about everything you had been through. And I was just like observing. And I'm like, wow, it's the way you hold yourself. And I think you're right. There's the intuitive part of our being, the subconscious of our mind and our body. It knows what is happening at all times. And the same way I can relate it to my cysts. I had 86 cysts on my ovaries, which we talked about in episode 2. And there was a lot of energy going to protect the womb And with so much energy protecting the womb, this is my belief right now, that it was putting my feminine constantly in fight or flight. And it seems very similar to what you're experiencing. And when our feminine is in fight or flight, how is it possible for us to feel fully alive in our own being?
Yeah.
We know something's off. We just don't know what it is. And I one of the things I know that we've both talked about so much over the years is embodiment of the feminine and feeling uncomfortable in our own self and knowing something's not right. And we do know, our intuition does know. And it guides us to these beautiful spaces and places, those what I call the God nudge. Like just like you got the nudge to start going down the Google search of explant and to connect with other people and be brave and bold to ask questions. And I think that's so needed right now because the mainstream information that's available to us is diluted, and it's not giving us direct access to the information that really matters, and that's people's experiences.
Yeah.
And so for you to be this beautiful lighthouse that's sharing this journey and maybe just giving a little nudge to women who maybe have not even thought about their implants being a cause for some of the things they're feeling, and not to invoke fear, but to be like, what would happen if you did just pause for a moment and dive into your body and see what it wants to tell you? I know that you going to Guadalajara to have the explant surgery done, you shared a few things with me that I would love for you to share. It was you being fully surrendered to receive in that moment. That was very raw. And I think that that's something else that women need to hear so they're not afraid. Because you even said you're afraid of surgery, you're afraid of anesthesia. But what you experienced was the opposite. Would you be open to sharing your experience?
Yeah, thank you. Oh, this is such a lovely conversation.
It's beautiful.
So yeah, it was an opportunity. I was afraid. Like one of the things that I was thinking ahead of the surgery was, as years go on, there's just that feeling, certainly for myself, of like my own mortality. And one of the things I was afraid of was the anesthesia and being somewhere, and I was able to be in that place and just close my eyes. And I felt I was so open and safe in that moment to just let go. There wasn't a contraction in my energy. It wasn't like, it was just like, I was so relaxed and so open. And I felt like this energy orb of light. And then when I came round, it was like, oh, wow, I'm here again, because it's just a surreal experience unless someone's had surgery, it's not something we do all the time. So after that, then it was...
Wait, before you go into after, the reason I believe that you were able to surrender, and if we can touch on this, because this is part of your offers for other women, so we won't go fully into it, but you were ready to surrender because you had done a full ceremony with yourself before.
That is true, yeah, that is
You
right.
spent intentional time saying goodbye to that version, correct?
That is right. Yeah, I mean, it has been very important for me. Shall I go
Yes,
into that?
please.
So I've really taken this journey as like a spiritual practice and my soul work, and to really be in this place of how do I live and be in each moment and take each of it as sacred and present, and that even now, if I just kind of close my eyes, I can just go back to feeling what my breast felt like and feeling even the different sensation of the skin of my areolas before, and to just feel that shape of myself. And it's because I really wanted to be able to be with her and remember her and know that she got me to where I am now. And that, I didn't want to have this thing of just wanting to rush through it and change something about myself, which is really, the journey that I was doing when I was in my early 20s. And to just really honor each moment. Yeah, I did do a breast ritual, and I went and I went to this hot springs and was really just there and, praying with the water and just really just taking that moment. And it was very special to have that. And thank you for even asking me, just so I could even just recall it now, because it brings this smile to my face. There isn't this judgment, or I took a lot of photos and videos. I feel like one of the things that really came through when I was sitting with my own like soul whisper of like, what is this? And I received that kind of like inner knowing that it's celebration, it's celebrating the all of it. And celebration, it can be felt in a way that it's like, oh, it's just feeling good or happy or joy. It's not actually, because it's celebrating is like being, for me anyway, in the full like richness of all emotions, and being able to be in the down and the sadness and the grief and even the anger of just like, going through all this stuff. But for me, it's like such presence with that celebration is the word for it all. And I got this message when I was kind of, just like connecting with that inner knowing. And I was like, celebration? And I then remembered that I haven't delved too much into it. I don't know if you have, the gene keys, and trying, learning about whatever it brings together, astrology and Chinese. That's as much as I can say right now. However, there's something that has your life's work, and my siddhi for my life's work is celebration. And just in that moment, I just remembered it, and I was like, even just the opening of like thinking how much bigger celebration is, exactly what I just shared to you. Celebration isn't just like, yay, it's so up and party and it feels so great. It's like just celebrating the richness and the vastness and all the things of life and just being with them. Like that's what celebration meant to me in that moment, and it's feeling really alive for me as I say it right now. So yes, I'll pause there.
No, I think it's perfect, because you went into your surgery fully celebrating that version of yourself, which I think is something, when you told me that, I was so enthralled. I've been so enthralled with your whole journey. I've watched every story because I just think you are living your life's work. What you teach to others as an embodiment coach, like everything you just described was what I mentioned at the beginning of what you do with people to feel all emotions. And so you are actively taking the driver's seat role in your life with the work you teach others to yourself. And I think that's something that makes you a true leader. And I believe that that's also why you were able to, one of the reasons you were able to show up at this surgery center by yourself, may I add, and fully surrender to receive help, care, support. You told me even about the nurse who would wash you, and even just to have that amount of surrender in your softness. What a beautiful way to open the path of this new era of your embodied feminine. And I think that that is what sets you apart from so many people, is that you're not hiding the truth from yourself. You're fully feeling it all. And I think in a world where women feel that they have to be something else or be someone else or look a different way, to hear that truth from you is such a gift of permission to just figure it out as we go and to really be connected with the depths of who we are. Because I've never had breast implants, and yet I still have learned so much from your journey. And I have already started connecting other women with you who want to take the step of having an explant, but don't want to do it alone. And following your wisdom and your guidance and coaching them through that embodiment piece, I think is going to bring the spiritual aspect to this procedure for so many women. And I know that you're in a new era right now, a new era of your own life, of self-love, of acceptance, and sharing this story. And I feel very honored that this is the first time you've shared it like this. And you're openly discussing all of these topics, and you have opened your coaching one-on-one. You also create and curate the most exceptional experiences with breath work and other modalities. And you have small groups that are starting up again twice a year that you have open to everyone. We're going to put all of this in the show notes, because there's many ways for people to work with you. And what is something that you would just love for any woman who's thinking about having an explant or even just fully embodying their body right now? What is some wisdom that you can share with them? And I know that so many people will come and book calls with you to work with you after, yet I would love for you to just share them with an inspired Gemma wisdom.
Right. I feel that, especially on a journey of change with the body, and it doesn't need to be, surgery or their breast, but just really in this place of change, is to really just be present with what is alive and really feel what is the sadness and the grief that has been on this journey, and what's the the worst thing that has been. And then to also just be able to feel that, really create that space to just really be present with that inner self. And then from there, just really allowing, what then comes through to this place of just like accepting what is, and even just being in this place of like just opening to, like it's okay to be me, but this real just like approval of just like where I am, because the parts of ourselves that whenever we're on a journey and it just, even I know this for myself, and I certainly hear it from the women I work with, this grappling of just like not wanting things to be as they are, where they are, and just in that moment when we can just like just finally feel all of the stuff that we've been holding back, and then to just be like, wow, okay, it's just a relaxed place to move forward from. And there's just nothing more beautiful than just showing up to the presence of life and this human experience, and taking the time to find those moments to do that, especially when going through change, whatever that might look like. I think is just like, it's something that when looked back on is like, wow, that really mattered, and that was really important and significant for me. Because I know for myself, certainly even getting into this work, I spent so many years, it feels like, that, the lights are on, but no one's home, or just operating in life. I didn't even feel like I was there in my 20s. I did a lot of stuff. I was in a lot of places and seemingly having amazing times, but I wasn't there from here. And that is one of the only things that I really look back and I feel sad about. And I also know that that was just my journey, and that's who I was then. And I really get to choose to show up and feel in that way now. And it's really important.
I think that is the most important piece to leave with people. And one of the things that you do in your work is teaching people how to feel safe to feel. And I believe that that was one of the greatest gifts that I continue to learn for myself. And I just thank you for allowing your story to be just a piece of someone else's journey. I'm so grateful for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, so much love.
Thank you so much for joining me on the Living Word podcast today. My hope is that you have something new or a remembrance that you can apply in your life right now. Isn't that the whole point of us learning and growing? To take new understandings and alchemize them through our own human experience? Please like and leave a comment or review if you enjoyed this episode, and share it with people in your life who would benefit from hearing it also. And make sure you subscribe to the Living Word podcast on your favorite platform and be the first to know about upcoming episodes. Sending so much love and gratitude to be on this journey together. See you soon.